E aí, moçada?
Oi, gurizada.
E aí, pessoal?
Gurizada. Ô, gurizada, desculpa pela minha luz que tá muito ruim. Caiu a luz aqui, tipo, real. Enfim.
Tu não dá um bom blogueiro.
Não dá um bom blogueiro. Não, eu tentei, inclusive, essa luz aqui, ó, acender. E não tá rolando.
É pior, ó.
Barbaridade, pá. Eu falei certo, não foi? Falei certo.
Oi, pessoal.
Deixa eu ver.
Mandem seu oizinho, seu bom dia, quem tá acordadinho.
Bom dia,
também
pessoal.
Pode ser
Bom dia pra quem tá
o good morning. Good morning,
Alguém acabou de bater na minha porta e eu não vou atender essa pessoa. Tipo, no meio de uma live, tá ligado? Né?
Entregador de pizza.
Ei, Israel, pode fazer aquela também palavras em inglês pro pessoal que tá entrando, que se for
Vai
de
que é o teu
lugar.
vizinho, Israel. Ah, tá.
Pera,
Tipo, good morning, pessoal, mande seus comentários. Como é que seria o resto?
Dá pra ouvir aqui que a pessoa tá...
Quer atender?
Tá, já volto.
Legal.
Enquanto isso...
Então, Bruna, você pode falar pro pessoal em inglês para o pessoal mandar seu bom dia, tipo essas coisas. Que a gente faz pros brasileiros.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Não sei o que dizer. Bom dia, pessoal. Ó, tem gente já nos comentários. Ulisses, a Sônia, Gabriel. Bom dia, gente.
Bom dia, pessoal. Valeu por estar aqui no True Violence.
Então a minha vizinha tava perguntando se a luz aqui também tinha caído.
Eu pensei que foi algum problema aí, vai, que era...
Querida.
Enfim.
Será que tá caindo a luz no teu prédio? Não vai atrapalhar a tua internet?
Não, então, aí é que tá. Ó, a minha internet tá de boas. Na verdade, sim, é engraçado porque parte do apartamento tá com luz e parte tá sem. Tipo, o banheiro tem luz. Eu consigo ver que o micro-ondas aqui tá com luz. Mas, por exemplo, a luz aqui da sala eu não consigo ligar, tá muito estranho. Beleza.
Legal. Quer dar uma saudação em inglês, Céu?
So welcome everyone who's joining us today with the two violins. In case you don't understand Portuguese, good day or maybe good afternoon, depending where you are. Thank you very much for being here. If you have any questions, you can just put on the chat, and then we might add that if we have some time to our interview. And yes, that's it. Thanks.
Ulisses, pode fazer pergunta, assim. Ulisses está perguntando ali. Posso fazer 2 perguntas? Pode, 2, 3.
E também você pode como é que a gente diz, pessoal? Com as palavras de incentivo, né? Tipo, tô gostando da live, parabéns.
Pra ele.
Obrigado, Timothy, essas coisas. Vocês podem, com certeza. Que pode aparecer aqui no banner, sua fotinho com o comentário. Aí ele vai ficar, Mas se puder escrever em inglês também seria massa. Ou a gente traduz.
A gente traduz qualquer coisa, né? Mas quem quiser treinar o inglês já...
Sim, como eu que estou aqui treinando inglês, tentando. Ai.
Daqui a pouquinho a gente começa, pessoal. Logo a gente chama o nosso convidado.
Logo mais vamos chamar o nosso convidado especial.
Vocês vão ficar de queixo caído. Segura o queixo porque pode cair. Porque é muito incrível.
Hoje temos surpresas, na verdade.
Teremos muitas surpresas hoje. Muitas surpresas.
Pois é.
Deixa eu ver como é que... minha luz não tá tão ruim. Quando eu vejo no YouTube, tá legal. Beleza.
Olha, o convidado especial já daqui a pouco entra, tá?
Ele tá pronto já, Matheus?
Ele quer que eu chame? Ele é convidado especial. Posso chamar você, que você está me ouvindo? Pode dar um joinha? A Aris que ainda não pode.
Ainda não pode? Estamos quase lá.
Ele entendeu teu português, meu Deus.
Pois é. É porque é verdade, temos que falar com ele. Você como é que fala Israel em inglês? Depois você pode escrever no chat, Israel.
O que é para eu escrever?
Que perguntando se já pode entrar.
Ah, tá, beleza. Peraí.
Tô meio empolgada.
Meu Deus do céu.
Ô, Mimi, a gente não atrasa, a gente tá esperando, aguardando vocês entrarem, a gente já vai chamar. É só um...
Obrigado. Olha, Mimi tá aqui, futura violista, quem sabe?
Mimi.
Futura violista, quem sabe? E agora? Não, vamos... Israel, pergunta a ele se pode entrar.
Pera aí, deixa eu ver no chat aqui.
Pera, só um pouquinho.
Tá bom, então, com vocês, o nosso convidado especial de hoje.
Não, pera aí, acho que erraram aí, hein, rapaz.
Como assim?
Eu tô
aqui?
não.
Né?
Guys, are you really talking to me? Eu cliquei aqui, entrei,
clicou no link errado.
Pô, cliquei no link errado, rapaz.
Mas já que estou aqui, tu não quer já ficar para nossa live aqui?
Mas eu tava entrando na live dos Pires Cabano aqui, do negócio do peixe. Ah, não. Eu errei, rapaz.
Recebeu o link
mas hoje que é a live do Timothy?
Hoje é a live do Timothy. Não quer colar aqui? Fica aqui com a gente?
Eu quero. Cara,
beleza,
eu sou fã.
Beleza, então. Vamos chamar ele aqui, então?
Okay. Nossa, olha aí.
So we're gonna now call our beloved guest, Timothy Ridout. Hello. How are you?
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just introducing you to our Brazilian team of the two violins, and then this guy here is the father of the viola in Brazil.
The father.
Yeah. So awesome. So we're really pleased to have you here today with us, and we'd like to start by asking you what's your history with music and the viola.
Okay. Well, I'll try and start as close to the beginning as I can. My parents are both musicians, so music was always around me. And actually, my mother is a cellist. And I remember when I was younger, she told me a story of how she was playing a Mahler symphony, and I just started kicking really, really violently when I was still inside the womb. And so that was, I guess, one of my earliest reactions to music. But then, as a kid, I guess I was singing a lot, actually. Before I came to the viola, I didn't start any instruments when I was really young, but I was singing, and I took part in a choir and did all sorts of things like that. And I started playing the viola when I was 8 years old. I was quite lucky. There was a concert at my school where all the local teachers played a short piece, and the viola teacher played the theme from Harry Potter. And I said, okay, I want to do that too. So that was the introduction to the viola. And I still, to be honest, I was a very bad student. I didn't practice much in the beginning, but I was still singing a lot at that time until my voice started to break. And then that sounded really quite terrible for a while. And I just wanted to be doing music, to be making music, playing music. And so I suddenly found that actually you can make music on a viola too. And so I just started practicing a lot when I was 12 or 13, and that's my real beginning with the viola. And then after that, a lot of different studies with. I mean, I had a local teacher who started me off really well, but then I had some really fantastic teachers after that as well, who were really, really helpful throughout the 12 years since I was 12 years old until now. Yeah, that's the basic background. I don't know if you'd like me to expand on some more details. Be guided by you.
Sure. No, that was awesome. So Harry Potter is really important for the music world.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Cool. So Brenna's gonna practice her English a little bit, so she has the next question for you.
Okay.
Okay. So, how are your lessons with Nobuko Imai?
Nobuko. Well, she is a legend, as we all know. She's a real legend of the viola. But more than that, actually, an incredibly inspiring human being. That is really the biggest thing I would have to say about Nobuko. I mean, wonderful, absolutely wonderful violist, but just her energy when she walks in the room, she is so dedicated and so committed. And I think you can talk about all different ideas about how to interpret music, all different ideas about technique or flatter fingers or higher fingers or higher bowing arm or lower bowing arm, but actually the attitude towards making music and its place within life and the attitude connecting music with people, that is the biggest way in which Nobuko inspired me. And I could tell you different technical exercises, which maybe I'll talk about that later, the sort of technical things which we worked on, but her as a person was so inspiring. And we would eat through repertoire really quickly. She wasn't the type of teacher who would tell me bar by bar how to play or which notes to fix or anything like that. But I would often play through a whole full piece or at least a full movement, and she would have a few comments, and I wouldn't necessarily always get it right at the beginning and improve loads suddenly. But it was more that she would give me things to think about, and then in my coming weeks of practice, those sort of sound bites would come back to me, and also the way she would demonstrate something. Sometimes it would just influence the whole attitude towards the piece, and I think generally just my attitude as a musician was influenced a lot by her in these last few years. It was also a very interesting time of studying because I wasn't ever having weekly lessons from her. Of course, in my undergraduate education as a teenager, I had weekly lessons. But when I studied with Nobuko Imai in Kronberg, I seldom saw her in Kronberg, but I often traveled to meet her whenever she had a free day in Switzerland or a free day in Amsterdam or wherever I could grab her and find her for a day or two. And then we would have these really long, intense sessions. So in Amsterdam, for example, I would maybe go once every 2 months, and we'd spend 3 hours together working really intensely, and then maybe have some food or some tea together. And then I would go to my place to sleep, to a hotel, be absolutely exhausted, and then the next morning do another 3 hours with more repertoire. So I would really get through a lot of repertoire in each session, but I would also take away much more than I could remember in exact words and details, but in the feeling and the attitude towards all of the pieces. And she just has the most momentous energy. She can teach from dawn till dusk and then go and practice for herself of her new arrangement of Bartok Violin Sonata in the nighttime. She's really a phenomenal musician and a phenomenal human with so much energy, so much dedication to her students, to her concerts, to every part of her life, I think. So, Nobuko, that's her.
Yeah. Sorry, just would like to ask you about Kronberg, the academy. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about it? It sounds really great, the idea and how they do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so happy I went to Kronberg. It was a really special few years, and the really unique thing. I mean, I had Nobuko as the most wonderful mentor, but that aside, I got to meet so many other musicians. And to play for someone like Andras Schiff or Gidon Kremer or Simon Rattle, and to be sitting in a room with them and to share dinner with them, because it's such a small community that there would always be at least one dinner with the visiting maestro, and we would just spend time together. And again, similarly to Nabucco, one of the biggest things I learned with Kronberg is about the human aspect, because so often these great legendary musicians, we almost don't see them as people. I know I for sure didn't when I was a teenager or a kid. I would just think of them as some other type of being, sort of immortal musicians. But you realize they are human beings, and you also realize that really great musicians also have very different ideas and very different attitudes to each other, which is in a sense very liberating, because you realize there are so many different ways of making music, as long as you do it with conviction, with you sort of work at it and you believe in it, and then you give everything you have. And I think that's what they all had in common, is that dedication to music. But stylistic things and other ideas could be worlds apart, and I find that very liberating in trying to find my own voice still, knowing that there's not one fixed way to do things, but there are so many out there, so many options. Yeah.
And talking about different ways of doing things, I just wanted to ask you, how do you think, I'm going to a very technical thing here. How do you think about your bow and your bow hold? Just because, so I'm basically a lot from the Karen Tuttle school here in the States, which, she didn't like pronation at all. And
Right.
when I teach my students about, how not to use pronation to get a bigger sound in some places, sometimes I even recommend them to watch some of your videos, because, you barely use any pronation, especially at the tip. So I would like to ask you, how do you think your right hand in that matter?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually wondered a lot about this myself over the years, and I think I owe a lot of my right hand technique to my teacher I started with when I was 14 years old. So to go back a little bit to life and background, and to hopefully give you a good answer to this question. When I was a kid, I had really bad shoulder issues. I would have a really tense, high shoulder. And it got to a point where I got this injury, this acute torticollis, which is a kind of muscle spasm in the neck. And for a few days, it was very painful and I couldn't play. And at that point, I knew that I was doing something really wrong with my right arm. And my teacher at the time just really encouraged me a lot with posture and being relaxed. And then he also gave me reams of exercises. This guy he would give me so much material to use, things to borrow and photocopies of bits and bobs of exercise that he had found really useful. And I remember a couple of them. I'll grab a bow. So one of them is that I remember I probably had quite a stiff right hand at the time. And he encouraged me that you need to have a lot of flexibility in every finger, and also a lot of strength. So he gave me this exercise, I think it's quota 13, and you purely using the fingers. So I developed a lot of flexibility and strength in the fingers, and then things with putting different combinations of fingers on the bow, which I don't really practice so much these days. I have to admit, I've generally swamped with repertoire. But I spent a lot of time really thinking about this. And he also had a wonderful way of talking about sound. And I think through that, I never really made a fixed... I never had a fixed idea about pronation or not pronation or low arm or high arm. But what I learned is that all of the fingers have a job to do. They all have a responsibility, and they all need strength and flexibility, and that goes throughout the whole body and whole arm. And I spent also in those years when I was 14, 15, 16, I practiced quite a lot of Alexander technique, which also I think went hand in hand with this of developing posture, relaxation. And yeah, I don't know, I've wondered throughout the last years, about I guess pronation does go also hand in hand with the height of the elbow. I think they're almost inseparable things, or there's definitely a relation there somewhere. And I was thinking, what is better? I remember asking this question and debating with my friends, being real viola nerds at some point about what this is better, no, this is better. And I realized actually the type of sound we should use should be infinitely different. I mean, like colors on a painting, we should have so many different colors. So I like to try and think that, of course, there's a kind of average, I mean, I don't know how the camera picks this up, but a kind of average height that you follow the sort of natural shape of the arm. But within that, having a really high arm sometimes to get a certain quality of sound, having a really low arm other times to get a different quality of sound. I personally think as long as it's not painful, as long as it's not unnatural, that it's not wrong to try and tweak these things. And so sometimes I've experimented with having a more pronated grip if I want a very sort of crisp or articulate sound in some places. I've worked on really almost having, a kind of brittle hold to get a really brittle sound. But I would say as a general sort of viola quality of sound, that having this thing with relaxed fingers and also strong and relaxed, supple, is really important. And I think they find their natural place on the stick then. I've also experimented again. There was one viola player who influenced me quite a lot, and he talked about having different types of spacings of the fingers for different sounds. So I also experimented with that, about having kind of somehow having really close fingers, this kind of old school way, can in a way have a more focused sound. And whereas spreading the fingers a bit more somehow opens the sound a little bit more. And I think I generally tend to gravitate towards a fairly neutral grip with maybe the middle two fingers a little bit closer and these two fingers balancing on either side. But I've only got there by trying to experiment with all the different options, and that's the one which seems to be the natural, if you have to say your main just singing basics of your voice on the viola, but taking away all the effects and all of the colors, but the basic quality of the voice, I found, for me, that seems to work. But I'm still always trying to experiment and trying to see, oh, this sound doesn't work. And my viola also seems to change day to day. Sometimes it seems to want so much more articulation, and I feel like I have to grip the stick a tiny bit more to make it speak. And other times, if I do that, it's going to choke it, and I really need to sort of be as relaxed as possible and just let it sing. And sometimes it can also be counterintuitive. You try one thing and it gives you the opposite result to what you think you're going to get. So I would say being open-minded and just really spending the time in the practice room with a mirror is fantastic. Also, then you see if you're doing something weird or strange with your neck. But I would say it's all related to the general posture of the body and not overexerting when unnecessary. It's just developing an awareness of if you're using it. If you're pronated and you're completely relaxed and you have a great sound, I would say that's great. But if anything is uncomfortable, or you're just really not aware because you've built up this habit of holding tension, then just trying to take a step back and assess what your basic bodily needs are as an instrumentalist will hopefully help guide to finding a good bow hold and a good position for the fingers on the stick. I don't know if that's a very clear answer, but I'm just trying to explain my journey with this stick.
No, that was awesome. That was awesome. And I really like the fact that you were talking about singing, because I know that our great Alexandre Razera right here, he has a few questions for you, and I know they're also related to singing. So go ahead.
Yes, that's why, I mean, when you start to talk about your life, I understood it, but I really like First of all, I'm a big fan of yours. You are really inspiring musician. That's really, I learn a lot. Really, like Mozart clarinet concert. I have a question about that for later, but for now, when you did the Dichterliebe, and I really, because I love, first of all, I love this piece, and I love the way you play it.
Thank you.
And when you prepare a piece like that, do you think about the text? I mean, do you know the text? Do you try to sing with the viola the words that are written there? How do you prepare a piece like that, a huge piece like that? How do you do it?
Good question. Well, I guess I'd start with the reason I played it is because I fell in love with the piece. Obviously, I love to listen to it. It's just genius music. It's so beautiful and it's so touching. And I have a basic understanding of German. I can communicate in a very basic way, but reading the Heine poems, I can't read everything and just understand perfectly. But so there's a 2-point thing of my attitude to the text. Firstly, the sound is really in my ear, and I've tried to sing it and be aware of the sounds of it. Im wunderschönen Monat Mai, als alle Knospen sprangen. So there's that kind of sound of the words in my ear. And then on top of that, I've partially written out any parts which I don't understand just from reading. I have the words. So it's kind of understanding the meaning of the songs is vital just to help understand the music. And then having this idea in the back of my mind. And I did experiment around, like, how can I make a K sound? Knospen, sprangen, or ach, weh, or all of these different sounds in the German language. I've experimented with what makes that sound and tried to spend time with that and tried to spend time understanding the song. But finally, when it comes to performing it, I just try and play and try to almost forget all of that, because there's infinite things we can do with the bow. But if we, and we should try all of them, but then if we in the moment are thinking about Im wunderschönen Monat Mai, it can get very overcomplicated and actually then break the phrase. And I had one lesson from Hartmut Holl, a famous lead accompanist, and he was actually the whole time just trying to make it as smooth and legato as possible. And I suppose that the singers are actually often trying to fight against the fact that there's so many different consonants, and they just want a really beautiful line. So it's been a battle between the two elements, having really long singing lines and having the details, the articulations. And to me, I think that all of those little details are so beautiful, all of those different types of consonants and vowels. And so I'm still learning, and I try so many different bowings and different parts of the bow and how to slur. That was one of the biggest jobs in making the arrangement, should we say, is deciding what should be slurred and what should be separate. Because sometimes a word doesn't have a slur in the music, but it's one word. But sometimes it's got a very hard consonant in the middle. So then maybe you want a new bow for that. So it's been a lot of, and then sometimes something seems to work perfectly, but then you put it in full tempo and it's very uncomfortable. Like die Rose, die Lily, die Taube, die Sonne, and then I was in the wrong part of the bow, and then I had to sort of work it out, add a little up or something. So it's really a process, just getting to know it on as many different levels as possible. And for me, it's still really work in progress. I was actually supposed to record it last week, but I had to travel abroad to record, and at the moment that's not the easiest thing.
Please do it. Please do it. It sounds really great. You know, like I would say, like Fritz Wunderlich, he's so fine and so many colors when he sings. And when you play the viola, because that's, for me, it's a huge challenge. This is my next piece. I want really to work on it. And this is because the bow, we have really to choose the right things, the right words, and where to put it. And it's really, it's huge. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
How would you encourage people like to teach students and I don't mean it doesn't have to be this piece, but any other piece that we have to sing. We have to really, we have a text and we have to work on it.
Yeah.
Would you encourage like students and teachers to teach how to work on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage. I mean, my view is that I play the viola, and that's the instrument I chose and have developed this relationship with. But all the different music that I can sort of eat metaphorically, I want to be able to enjoy that music. And I think in the past, in the 18th and 19th centuries, people would just play whatever music they got their hands on, and they had a much more sort of fluent view to transcriptions and playing other people's music and incorporating their styles. And I think it's just, yeah, the most wonderful thing if we can just play whatever's out there. I think we shouldn't be limited strictly to the viola repertoire. At the same time, I think we should try and find everything we can in the viola repertoire. But music is music, and at the end of the day, if it creates something interesting, something beautiful for the audience to listen to, or just for yourself, even there's some things I play at home which I maybe will never play in public. But it's why not? I see no reason not to enjoy this beautiful music that we've been given by these great composers. Yeah.
It's like
is your arrangement. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, I would like to ask that also. Yeah, is there? Do you play by the score, this Schumann, or how do you play it?
For the Schumann, I have the vocal score, just a normal thing, the singer would buy, which has the piano parts below, and it's quite simply like that, and it has scribbles of a lot of different ideas about slurs and things rubbed out, and then I have some other ideas in the arrangement to maybe play, like in Das ist ein Flöte und Geige. I play the piano parts because I think the melodic interest isn't so great in the vocal line, and it makes a nice texture to experiment. So I'm playing around with different ideas of how I can even arrange a little bit. I don't want to create anything sacrilegious, but I think, yeah, it's still a process of exploring, but having that full vocal score in front of me, I would say, is vital for looking at the song. So you can see those words and you can make the decisions about slurs. And if, let's say, hypothetically, if I were to one day try and publish my arrangement, I would also want it to be this style with the piano part there and with the words there always, so that people know what it is that they are altering. Because as soon as we make an arrangement, we're changing the text a bit, which I think we're changing the format a little bit, which I think is absolutely fine as long as we are aware of the pure original. So I would encourage people to play Dixie Libre. I mean, why not? But to have the vocal score, and to even if it's locked in a really perfectly soundproofed room, to try singing it yourself and to see what that teaches you, because it's learned so much. And I'm very lucky that on 2 occasions, actually, I was really lucky for after a concert in the evening and sort of festival, I was lucky to play with a really great pianist when we had a couple of glasses of wine, and normally they would play with really great singers, and I feel super honored that they took the time to do the whole song cycle with me, and my voice started to crack a lot when I have to go up to the high G and Ich rolle nicht. But it's, yeah, just to get to know the music on as many levels as possible. Now I'm trying to actually play a little bit on piano, which I'm terrible at, but even to play really slowly to just feel how crazy these harmonies are that Schumann is writing. Yeah, just enjoying the music on every level, and then hopefully at some point you can share that with an audience and they can enjoy it just as much as you have. Yeah, that's my view.
And for the Mozart clarinet concert, you played this. I like the version that's Thomas Riebel, no?
Yeah. So Thomas put that together, and I think he inspired me to actually do it in the first place. I remember I had bought this, I think, Baronreiter transcription.
Yeah, Christopher Hogwood. Huh?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question.
So that is
why?
Yeah, I believe that is based on. Sorry, that's based on a transcription from 1810 by someone called Andre, who was a publisher, I believe. and maybe a violist as well. But I found that version suffers a little bit due to the fact that it's a lot of arpeggios, for example, which is such a key feature of that clarinet concerto, are changed just to single scales, which of course makes it much easier for the left hand and much more reliable, but I think it takes away a lot of the charm. So this version which Thomas made is literally, I think he got someone to put the original Bassett clarinet with the low notes into notation software. And then that was pretty much plain. And I went through to edit out the things which are too low, because I think the bass clarinet might go down to a low A. So a couple of things you have to change octave up a little bit more, like the clarinet version that we hear the most often. And then you have to make a lot of decisions about slurs and articulations, which is, again, is a long process. And that I think Thomas originally was hoping to publish it. I don't know if he did in the end, but I definitely suggested to him that he should. Yeah.
I don't know. I have a PDF from his version. I mean, the one that you play. Yeah, maybe there is. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but I got it somehow.
I also have a PDF, but it doesn't like a real published edition. It
does. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it's true.
So you still have to make some changes from that to get it ready for the concerts version, but I think
why in this recording you have on YouTube.
Yeah.
Why is the third movement missing? It's so beautiful.
It's very
the third movement. Really,
it's a beautiful third movement. Very beautiful third movement. So I was quite a little bit crazy around that time. I was juggling many programs, and I had this concerto written for me, which was my first ever real commission. And I was playing then later that month, the first time playing the Bruch double concerto, and had a few recital programs in between. And then I played this Mozart clarinet concerto. And there was this very small thing that in the clarinet concerto, like the on the third or fourth line of maybe section B or something you could call it, both times in the exposition and the recapitulation, I suddenly, for 1 or 2 bars, I had a memory blank, and it was just scratching noises. And I actually was very curious to hear it, but the people who recorded it didn't want to do the editing process in case it wasn't used. So in the end, they just edited the good movements, the movement without mistake. And it's a pity, because I wish
sounds really, it sounds great. It's really like you're also the bowings, and you work a lot on it. I think you, because of the singing also and everything, it's so natural the way you play. You are this kind of musicians that we forget the instrument. You just play, and then, but at the same time, because I'm a viola player, of course, I know that you know a lot what you are doing. It's not like just singing. You really choose the right things to do. I mean, the way you talk here, it's really something that's a lot to learn. It's very, very nice.
Thank you so much. Big compliment. No, I wish I had played the third movement without making mistakes, to be honest, and then there would be a full version. But one day I will for sure perform it again, and hopefully that time I will give a perfect version, which will be recorded. Perfect. I'll give a clean version, which will be recorded. Yeah. So I have to wait and see.
Sweet. Awesome. I just didn't want to miss, because there's a lot of people here in the YouTube comments that they're asking you, how do you prepare for competitions? I know it's kind of like huge topic change, but I just wanted to make sure that we would cover that, just because people are wondering.
Sure. Okay. How do I prepare for competitions? To throw my mind back to this subject. Well, so funnily enough, when I did this Mozart clarinet concerto, that was in, as I remember, February 2016. And I mentioned my January with this new commission and the Bruch and some recitals. And then after this, I think I had pushed myself too much. I played a Walton concerto after this, and I've really been pushing myself, practicing a lot. And I got very sick, really horrible, some sort of stomach thing. And that was right before Ted's competition. So my advice isn't very, very common sense when it comes to preparing for a competition. But funnily enough, I've been playing a lot on stage. And I think that is an important thing which people sometimes forget, that you can practice for 10 hours a day, but without being used to the communicating, being on stage in front of other people, whether that's 4 or 5 people, your family, or whether it's 500 people, it's not actually such a big difference. The more important thing is getting used to performing whole works through to people and getting used to that feeling of the pressure. And of course, the more pressurized the situation can be, the easier you'll find it later in the competition, I think. But getting used to performance, I guess I was doing that a lot, even though I didn't really have the right amount of time to prepare. And then there was, luckily, in that time, there was a Walton concerto a few weeks before, which would later be the final round in the third competition. And so I had played it recently, and then I got very sick, which seemed terrible at the time. But actually, in a way, it was a good thing, because I spent about 3 or 4 days in bed. And then I didn't touch the viola. And I think that's exactly what I needed, was a little break. I'd been working so intensely. I spent this time resting in bed, got better after about a week or so, quite a nasty week, but whatever. And then I had 2 weeks left, approximately, where I practiced really a lot. And I made for those 2 weeks, which I've done for a lot of important things, be it an important concerto debut or competition, or a recital, which has a big program, new program, I often make a sort of spreadsheet with a day planner. And I like to split things up so I cover each piece that I have to do, more or less each day or every other day. So I don't leave too long. I don't practice, let's say it's a whole competition program. I wouldn't practice 4 hours of Walton concerto one day and then other stuff for a few days and then come back to Walton concerto. I would try and practice a bit of Walton concerto every day, so it's kind of staying with me. And then also mixing it up with really slow practice. I think that's absolutely essential. And then sometimes practicing with a metronome in a medium tempo, something like that. And then trying to do playthroughs of a whole page or a page and a half or a whole movement. Because I think I think just the variety of practice styles is really important. I mean, it's easy just to get in the habit of playing a lot, which is, I think, harmful. But it's also easy, and I know I've been guilty of this in the past, of getting a habit of working everything really slowly or just a few bars at a time, which is really important to do that work. Don't get me wrong, it's vital doing that work. But if you only do that work and then you suddenly come to the playthrough, you're going to actually not do a great job, probably. So I think, just a mixture of practice styles and being very logical about covering everything enough. So let's say there's, 8 pieces, and 3 of the pieces have 3 movements. This is like a maths puzzle. It's going to turn into a viola joke. But let's say in total there's 12-ish movements that we need to work on. One is a caprice and one is a 3-movement sonata, so that's 3 chunks. Then you can divide your day into 30-minute practice sessions, and maybe you have 10 30-minute practice sessions in the day with breaks in between, something like this. And maybe 2 practice sessions back to back, then a half an hour break, go for a run, go for coffee, go for whatever, watch Netflix, have lunch, any of these things that we can do in between. But I think it's also really important to spread it out over the day, because if you try and say, I'm going to do all my practice in the morning, well, for me, that doesn't really work. I'm not very good at getting up early in the morning. Or if you say you're going to do it all in the evening, then you're probably going to be tired by the time you start. So I think just being really logical about splitting up your time, not working too hard, but also using your maximum potential is that fine line. Because if you practice maybe 3 hours and you have a lot of repertoire to cover, you're probably not going to be able to fit it all in. On the other hand, if you practice 7 hours, maybe after 3 days, you're going to be so tired that you can't finish your preparation. I don't know, maybe some people can practice 7 hours, but I think something, I don't know, in those intense preparations, up to 6 hours of practice plus a lot of breaks. So it probably takes up 10 hours of the day when you add in the breaks and you add in going to get coffee and human needs like visiting the bathroom once in a while. Then I think you can make a nice flow, a nice routine, and it's actually quite a nice preparation time because it's varied with a lot of different things to do. And if you balance it correctly, so there's nothing you're avoiding too much, then I think it works well. I mean, I suppose the difficult thing is actually when there is one piece that you really don't want to practice. Let's say it's I don't know, it could be a compulsory etude, or it could be a section that's really difficult. Then maybe that part you force yourself to practice twice a day, but you just do it for 10 minutes each time. And you just making sure that no stone is unturned in all of the repertoire that you have to cover. I think that's really important. Yeah, and then pacing yourself, working hard, but pacing yourself, and keeping a sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, sort of mini goals and big goals. I think that's a sort of practical way of organizing preparations. Yeah.
Sweet. Now, Brenda is going to practice her English once again, and she has another question for you.
Okay, so my question is, what do you think when you are about to perform, and also while you are playing?
Well, a brutally honest answer is when I'm about to go on stage, I wonder if my fly is done up. That's always my phobia, which I think guys will all understand. I don't know if there's an equivalent for women about something of dress or the back of the dress being done up. So that's the first thing. I mean, then the other thing which I try to do in the time before I go on stage is actually just to really try and imagine singing the music often, especially if I'm nervous. And I do get nerves. That's probably a separate question, a separate topic. It varies. Sometimes I'm hardly nervous at all. Sometimes I can be quite nervous. But if I try and just sing the music and think about actually why I chose to play this piece in the first place, why I love playing this piece, and I just sing it and try and get into a positive mindset of how much I enjoy the music, that normally helps subdue any nerves, a certain amount at least. Actually, whilst I'm on the platform, it really, really depends. There are times when I'm sort of completely engaged in the music and everything else seems to go by. And there's times where something will be niggling in the back of my head, or my mind even wanders a little bit. And I think that's, in a way, why we have to practice so much and why we have to have such a positive attitude towards music, because all of the time you're building your internal concept of this piece and your way of doing it. So whatever happens on stage, wherever you are finally feeling that you're able to produce something. But I would say generally it's kind of, I found my happy place is kind of, in a way, singing along with the performance, because if I try and focus too much on any one thing, that can be dangerous. And if I try and think ahead, that's a trap that I've got myself into in the past, that I try to think a bit too far ahead, further than where my fingers are, especially when playing from memory. That can be dangerous, because then you lose track of what you're actually doing in the present time, because you're sacrificing it to think about the future. And then when you get to the future, you're not anymore in the present moment. So I would say in my optimal state of performing, I'm just trying to be really present, to try and enjoy the line of the music. And I try not to have any things that I need to think or worry about technically. Of course, sometimes I don't manage it, and there's something I wish I could have done better. But another really important thing is letting mistakes go. As soon as it happens, let's say you mess something up, you can't be angry at yourself even for a second, because then the next part of music is suffering, and the audience is there to enjoy your music. And if you make a mistake, that's human, that happens, and it's your responsibility, I would say, to get over it straight away. Then the next day in the practice room, work twice as hard on that part. Focus your efforts on never making that mistake again. But in the moment, I think it's really dangerous to go into any sort of negative mindset because of making a mistake, because that is likely to lead to more of them. So it's best to just to forget it. And even in a funny kind of way, it can be liberating. There's some parts where for a while I had a real phobia about playing from memory, and actually often after I'd had the first small memory slip or the first tiny little glitch somewhere, then I would feel, okay, that's got that out of the way. Now I can just enjoy that's happened, and accepting that we might make mistakes, we might have memory slip, does definitely help with actually in the end not making those mistakes, not having those memory slips. I mean, you have to do everything you can to prepare as well as possible, and then just to try and enjoy the time on the platform, and to remember that people have come there to enjoy the music. They've come there to experience the art, and you're not in front of it. Even though it might feel like it, you're actually not in front of a firing squad. You're in front of people who have generally paid money because they want to come and enjoy this evening or lunchtime. So that's my kind of attitude towards performing. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I also would like to know what do you like about the viola work of York Bowen?
Oh, great question. I love York Bowen. That's the first part of the answer. What do I like particularly about it? Well, it's just such creative music. I think it's so. I think all of his music is kind of in this fantasy world. I mean, we've got these two great sonatas, the C minor, which has such a stormy beginning, and this folky last movement, and very fantastical middle movement. And then the F major, which is, I mean, the beginning is kind of like a song accompaniment or something, and it's really singing, really humorous. And then I would say the last movement of the F major sonata is just like flirting almost with this also this really serious, heavy middle movement. So those two sonatas are fantastic. Then there's the short pieces, which are all so creative, and they all fit the viola so well. So there's a kind of two-part reason why I like his music so much. I think it's really creative and fantastic harmonies. That's the one part. And the second part is I think it really fits our instrument very well. You know, he was a very talented guy, I think, York Bowen. He was an amateur viola player, amateur French horn player, excellent concert pianist by all accounts. And I think he probably worked quite closely with Lionel Curtis to bring these sonatas to life. And I've been reading recently about Curtis, and he was just an extraordinary guy. And Curtis and Bowen definitely played a certain amount of recitals together. So I think it's just very, very well crafted, beautiful, exciting music for the viola. So that's why I love York Bowen. And actually, coming back to the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, Curtis made an arrangement himself, which he performed in the 1930s at a festival called the Free Choirs Festival. I think it was probably with the LSO. It's now the Philharmonia normally play there, but in that time it was the LSO. And there was a headline the next day in the Daily Mail, quite an important newspaper in the UK, saying Mozart knew best. And it was this big scandalous thing. I can't imagine a big national newspaper talking about the problems of a viola arrangement. And Curtis, then he met the critic a few days later. Curtis was very happy with his arrangement. But Curtis's main goal was always the promotion of the viola. He really wanted the viola to be enjoyed as a solo instrument and for people to treat it on an even playing field like the violin and cello. And he met the critic because the critic had written this damning review of the arrangement. And the critic said to Curtis, "Oh, I suppose you must be very angry with me for writing this review." He said, "Oh no, of course not. You mentioned the viola about 30 times in your review of the concert, so it's excellent publicity." And so it's interesting to think that 100 years ago, Curtis was already being so out there, so creative, and fighting so hard for the viola and for what we all do today. And this great attitude towards good publicity for the viola, I find that really a wonderful sentiment.
Cool. Mateus is going to come back now, and he's also going to practice his English.
Great.
With this question.
What do you like about your viola?
My viola. Oh, well, there's Lots of things I like about my viola. I'm very lucky. I mean, I'll get it for this question. I think it deserves to be featured. So here it is. Well, firstly, it's on loan to me, and I think I have to say a big thank you to the very generous people who have bought it and are loaning it to me for over a long period. I mean, I'll tell you the story about when I found it, because I went into Beers in London, who organised the loan for me, and they lent it, in fact, directly to me from the beginning. And they put out some fantastic instruments. There was an Amati, there was Landolfi, there was maybe Maggini even, and they were all very good. And I tried them all, and I was quite happy with all of them. And they said, we have one more thing in the safe, but it's very big and hasn't been played for quite a while, and it might be difficult. But they got it, and it was very difficult to play. It really, I felt like I was pulling a rock every time I tried to catch the string. It was very difficult. But I noticed the more time I spent with it, even after 10, 15 minutes, it was just giving me more and more back. And at that point, it felt huge to me. I don't know if you count in centimeters or inches in Brazil.
Centimeters.
Centimeters. So it's about 43.
Yeah,
43.8. It's really quite on the large size.
Yeah, it's quite.
But the echoes are very high in the proportion of the body, so the bridge is very high. So actually, for the left hand, it's very manageable. It doesn't feel massive. Everything is just a step away. A normal viola contact point would be about here, I think, whereas mine is about here. Well, there. So it took us getting used to it, but I just noticed it had so many possibilities with tones and colors. And then when I first played it in concerts, it was some of the first times that people hadn't noticed any balance issues playing with orchestra, for example. So it kind of was win-win in that respect. It gave me all the colors and qualities I wanted at the same time as having a lot of power as well. And of course, it's an old instrument, and it can be difficult to work with. Sometimes I just wish it would really work smoothly and well. The weather in England recently has been changing a lot. It was very hot, and then very cold, very humid, and very damp. And it hasn't been very happy lately, to be honest. But when it's working at its best, it's an absolute dream to play on, just because of all the varieties. And in fact, even like when I play this Paganini Sonata for the grand viola, getting up to this G, which is up here, it's not impossible. It's not easy, but I would say for all of this low register it has, it's really worth that bit of extra struggle to get up to the top, because I think that's why we play the viola, for the sound at the end of the day. Yeah.
Awesome. For our second to last question, Mateus is also going to practice his English once again.
Okay.
How to be expressive?
Wow. Where to start with this one? That's a very, very broad question. So I think there's a few different parts to it. But the first part is probably the fact that you choose, well, there's various ways where you choose a piece, but definitely when you're younger and you're a student, you normally choose a piece because you heard someone else play it or because your teacher recommended it to you. I mean, my process is a little bit different now with choosing repertoire, because I'm trying to find new things, different things. But when I was younger, it was definitely this way around, that I heard someone else playing it and I thought, I really want to do that too. And so I think you already know that you really enjoy the piece, and you already develop your own personal feelings towards the music. And then I think the next step is that you actually get this piece of paper in front of you, the score, with all these dots, which is, of course, we all read music, and then we have to try and understand that and turn that into an audible thing. And I think it's really a process. It's not a matter of just suddenly being emotional in the concert, but rather trying to understand the music and having, I mean, there's a general broad sense which you don't need to learn of expressivity, which I think we all have there inside us somewhere, because we're all human beings and we all have emotions that we express in our lives. And then understanding which ones fit into the music is the process, which happens also in the practice room and in the rehearsals. When you put together a piece with piano, you hear the harmonies, you feel the harmonies, and you almost taste the harmonies. So that's a big part of expressivity, is coming from the score, from the harmonies, from what the composer has given you. And then being expressive, I would say, is trying to express those emotions which the composer has written down and those colors. And I don't say adding your interpretation, but I don't think that's what it is. I think naturally when we really try and understand the music, we naturally make our interpretation. Like when you read a book, you have your own imagination of how the characters look and how the scenery looks when the author describes it. And so we've got this description here, and then we bring it into the real world with our imagination. It's this two-part thing of the composer expressing and thus projecting those expressions into sound, into the air. And I think it's a journey which also changes. I might play something very expressively, but it might have less emotion than if I were to play it more simply. So that's also sometimes a factor to consider about giving the right amount. And it's a process. I think normally when you're younger, I think as a teenager, I would always play something very sort of hot-headed and fashionably. And now I'm trying to understand actually some music, if you take a step back and try and imagine, instead of being the character, watching the character, can give you a better story, a better narrative. But there's so many different ways to be expressive. But I would say it's connecting our internal emotions together with what is in front of us and bringing that into the world, that creative, expressive process. Yeah.
Cool. Before our last question, I actually have a question from Bruna. She wants to know what house of Harry Potter you are.
Oh, you know what? I now have to confess that whilst Harry Potter did get me to play the viola, I haven't read all of the books, and I'm not sure which house I would be. So it was obviously a big part of my life when I was 8 years old, but I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I definitely saw the first movie, The Philosopher's Stone, right? Is that 2001? I'm going to guess that it's 2001. And I guess I had my first viola lessons in 2003, 2004. So that would probably just come out on DVD sort of in 2002 or VHS even. I don't know when my parents got it. And that was probably just really fresh in my mind, that theme music from the opening. And I'm very sorry to Bruna that I can't say which house which house I would be in, or which house I would put myself in, or anything. I guess I need a magic hat to tell me that.
It's fine. It's fine. Cool. So the last question that we always ask our guests is, we actually created this channel because of the pandemic, to motivate people, because a lot of them, they're not having lessons, or they're not playing ensembles. I know that little by little ensembles are coming back, but a lot of people are just not playing them right now. Winter festivals in Brazil got canceled. Summer festivals here in the States also got canceled, or they got virtual. I don't know how that's going to work. So,
Yeah.
what are your suggestions and advices to stay motivated with the viola during hard times like these?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I honestly don't know that I can give a perfect answer. I think it all depends on the part of your journey you're on with your viola and with music. And I can only speak for myself and hopefully give some advice to other people. But for me, it's been a mixture of exploring new things that I would never normally have the time to do, repertoire-wise, things that I always wanted to try out, pieces I always wanted to learn, pieces that I already programmed for next season, and I'm praying that next season does happen in some way at least. So it's been a mix of those different things, as well as sort of coming back to basics. Also, I found in my personal life, I've played so many concerts in the last year or two that I often don't have time to practice many scales or arpeggios or etudes, or just something like picking a Kreutzer etude and deciding to work on it and really get it as good as possible. Things like that. This has been my motivation. I discovered these solo pieces by Alexei Agudisman, which are fantastic, and some of them have really great humor and they're really charming. And so learning new repertoire has been a big part of it for me. I also discovered Penderecki cadenza, and I discovered all this music by Rolla, which we generally forget about, Alessandro Rolla. There's been this E-flat major concerto I've learned during this time as well. And I mean, there's been loads of music which I've been learning and dabbling with, and there's a really thick pile of things out which I pick up, and it's in a way been liberating for me not having a concert deadline where I need just to get it to a good standard in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. But actually, I practice something for a couple of days, and then I put it down and I practice something else. And probably very few of them an audience would want to hear in concert, because I haven't really got them. I haven't been working to get to a really refined standard of playing, but it's been a general, more musical exploring thing. And for me also, this time has been really interesting because I never learned piano when I was a kid. So my dad, I didn't say this earlier, my dad is actually a jazz pianist and now a music teacher, general music teacher. And I think because he played the piano, that was a reason that I never learned the piano. Funnily enough, I didn't want to sort of follow too much in that direction. I wanted to do my own thing, whilst it was still clear to me in the family that probably music would be a natural option, and it ended up being my passion. So I've been learning piano at home, which has been really fascinating, and learning some really simple pieces and then taking piano parts for different sonatas and concertos and playing through a real snail pace, super, super slow, but just trying to actually feel the harmonies. And I hope and I think that it will give me a new perspective when I come back to the world. So I think a mixture of just following your curiosity. There's so much out there in the world. And also, it's good not to feel obliged. These are unprecedented times. And if you want to read a book instead, or you want to learn something else for a day or two or a week or so, that's also fine. And maybe you'll come back to the viola with a new, refreshed energy. So I definitely I had a period of 15 days, which is the longest in years that I've taken away from the viola. But it was so refreshing just to spend time reading, spend time cooking, not worrying about making some food as fast as possible to get back to a practice session, but really enjoying other things in life. Because I think, of course, this is a really terrible time and a difficult time, and so many people are suffering with terrible things. But I think we have to stay positive and see the positive sides of it, which can manifest in our lives. Of course, I'm very disappointed that a lot of the concerts I was hoping to play have been cancelled, but it's also a time for us to find ourselves, to find grounding, and to learn new things, be that about viola, be that about music. Reading a composer's biography and reading Tertis's biography has actually been fascinating. I would recommend this. It's a bit dense, to be honest. This book is quite dense, but it's really fascinating to see. I mean, it's quite a lot of stuff in there, but it includes concert programs and so many works that Tertis played, which has made me think, oh, yeah, I want to check that out. No one's playing that these days. Why aren't they playing that? When he spoke so highly of it, it must have been at least half decent. And so, I guess just having a curiosity about the world and about everything out there, people out there, food out there, books, movies. Just it all funnels back, and at the end of the day, we're not just violists. We're also people, and we're human beings, and we'll have different emotional needs. And sometimes even the most random thing can inspire you to practice the viola. Like I feel I've been watching some of the Marvel movies lately, and it's funny how watching a Marvel movie can make you want to go and practice the viola. Also, it's like there's so much out there to draw inspiration from. So don't limit yourself just to viola related inspiration, because you never know what's going to spark that next venture or something like that.
Awesome. That was amazing. So Thank you so much for taking some of your time for being here with us today, and for I think that was a really enlightening interview. We even have some messages from people I think Mateus is able to put on the screen, but a lot of people on YouTube were also really happy with what we learned today. Yeah, there's Mimi again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so once again, thank you
Thank you,
so
Mimi.
much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Real pleasure to chat to you. All. Thanks so much. Take care. Happy practicing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Mateus actually prepared. He learned something in English just to tell you.
Okay.
Mr. Ridout, thank you for coming to talk with us today. I'm honored to have this conversation with you, and I need to say that I have been a big fan of yours since I saw your performances on YouTube in 2016.
Oh.
I am sure after this conversation, several violets will get more inspired to keep their studies in viola during the quarantine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Valeu, pessoal.
O Razeira acho que gostou, né? Esse foi o presente de aniversário. Foi o presente de aniversário atrasado, o Razeira, que a gente mandou pra ele.
Ô, Matheus, você tá no mudo.
É
muita emoção, desculpa.
Cara, o Matheus parecia tipo aquelas criancinhas quando vê o ídolo assim, sabe? Que fica tipo.
Razeira voltou de novo.
Razeira voltou? Acho que o Razeira quer.
Eu caí.
Eu
caí, eu capotei. Eu nem falei tchau, pô. Desculpa.
Gostou do teu presente? Foi teu presente de aniversário isso aí. Gostou?
Foi meu presente de aniversário, adorei. Você viu? Que legal, né? Como a gente... eu achei... Tudo que eu pensava, vendo ele tocar, eu dava para saber, assim, sei lá, eu acho, né? A maneira dele, você vê como ele é uma pessoa natural, né? E pensa de uma maneira, sabe? Não tem nada de ego, não tem nada de... É uma pessoa normal que experimenta coisas, tenta fazer diferente, fala sempre em aprender, fala sempre, você percebe que ele sempre fala assim, ó, sabe, pode ser que funcione de outra maneira, mas é muito bacana, que cara bacana. Sou mais fã ainda agora. E,
Nossa.
Parabéns por vocês terem feito isso, isso é histórico, hein? Esse menino é de ouro, ele é fenômeno, fantástico. Né? Mais um assim dessa nova geração. Ele é fenomenal. Ele é fantástico. Ele tem 25 anos de idade, né?
Menos, por aí.
Não, ele tem um ano a mais que a gente, Bruna. Ele tem um ano a mais que a gente, Bruna. Uhum.
Por aí. Quer dizer, com esse nível de conteúdo, olha, é fantástico, fantástico. É uma pessoa muito especial, um cara muito especial que com certeza vai agregar muito aí para o mundo musical, não só para viola. Parabéns para vocês por conseguir essa entrevista fantástica.
Muito obrigado. Até o Marinho aí, ó.
Ó, Gabriel.
Valeu,
o próximo passo agora é fazer ele dar uma masterclass para nós aqui, né? Vou perguntar se eu posso tocar também, né? Lógico. Se eu puder, vou ficar honrado, né? Poder tocar. Quero aprender. Pô, tocar o concerto de Mozart para ele. Quem não viu tem que ver esse menino tocar o concerto de Mozart, porque é lindo. Ele foi fantástico. Fantástico.
Nossa, completamente. Demais.
Eu gostei da umidade dele. Nossa, nunca vi, né? Para tocar.
Não é, então.
Nossa.
Natural.
Sim.
Viu? Não precisa...
Fantástico.
Não precisa ser trouxa para tocar bem, né?
Tá vendo? É? Não, eu diria mais, para tocar do nível que ele toca, se for trouxa, não chega. Eu diria isso. Não consegue. É porque são outras preocupações na vida. Ele só fala em cantar, né? Você viu? Tudo é cantar. Não, eu penso em cantar. Pronação, a hora que o Israel falou de pronação, ele ficou, putz, ferrou, o que eu vou falar agora? Tipo, né? Se deu para perceber que deu. Peraí. Tipo, eu não faço pronação? Sério? Peraí, como assim? Daí ele ficou pensando, né? Porque, na verdade, ele faz, só que daí ele começou a lembrar, né? Foi massa. Deu uma bugada, né? No pulmão, né? No cantar dele. Ele lembrou que tocava viola, isso que eu acho massa. Fantástico.
Exatamente, ele lembrou que tocava viola. Nossa, melhor frase.
Né? Ele lembrou, por isso que eu falei, ele é um dos poucos músicos que bom, na minha opinião, né? Lógico que, pelo amor de Deus, né? Como diria ele aí, aprendendo. Na minha opinião, um dos poucos músicos que você esquece que está tocando um instrumento. Ele está cantando ali, e ele fala desde o começo, dá para entender. Por isso que eu encorajo muito, né, o pessoal mais novo, quem está começando, sempre ou cantar ou tocar flauta doce, que é mais simples para você conseguir se expressar com a música. Você vê, não é à toa que o cara canta tocando. Tem uma história, né? Então, para quem não teve essa felicidade, essa sorte dele, a gente dá para correr atrás, né? Você vê que a mentalidade de um dos maiores violistas, esse cara, na minha concepção, é com certeza, tanto ele quanto Antoine, né? Você pega Tabé, essas histórias, ele é com certeza um dos grandes. Que realmente o que ele faz é de grande. Então, dá para aprender com isso, né? O conceito dele, como que ele pensa. Pô, tô falando demais aqui, gente.
Não, estamos adorando.
Massa.
Não, agora é a live 2.0 com o Razeira.
2.0. Não, você viu que a gente aprendeu, isso daí foi essa live aí que vai ficar guardada, que vocês estão fazendo, que é fantástico. É uma aula, né, de, sabe, o cara fala de cantar o tempo inteiro, e é isso que a gente fala, de texto. Pô, eu quero... Ele tá falando, como que eu tiro esse som na viola? Exatamente isso que quando o chato, né, do Razeira, pô, mas você tá tocando parabéns para você, né? É isso, é o texto, é o que a gente está falando. Então, muitas vezes a gente toca lá o Hofmeister, o Walton, e a gente tá tocando um texto e tá tocando tudo assim, tudo soa mais ou menos assim que a gente fala, né? O cara só tá preocupado em cantar, ele não tá preocupado que, né? Ele tá preocupado com cores, em como ele tira aquele som, né? E eu acho que esse que é o nosso objetivo, independente da escola que a gente siga.
Sim, em nenhum momento falou técnica. Eu tenho que, como você mencionou, né? Eu tenho que alcançar aquele ótimo ponto de contato para alcançar aquele tipo, principalmente de violinista. Desculpa, violinista, se estiver assistindo.
É um foco em música. Não, repertório novo que eu tô vendo, descobri o cara, voltei. Ele, né, é uma pessoa viva nesse sentido aí, uma esponja, né? Você vê que o cara tá aprendendo e vendo e tal. Tudo que ele falou aí, já peguei umas 25 ideias, assim, de, pô, York Bowen, não sei o que, voltar na sonata, depois vou ter que ouvir o nome de novo daquela sonata solo que ele falou, que é muito legal, que eu não conheço, nunca ouvi falar. Alexia, como que é? Vocês ouviram? Vocês lembram?
Gundesman, uma coisa assim. Eu já vi, eu não lembro como é que é, mas
Gunzman, nunca ouvi falar. Então, e várias coisas que ele falou, pô, que bacana. Acho que o grande lance é esse. E é o que eu falei para ele é um dos caras que inspiram a gente, né? É legal ver, e tem gente, mas é difícil, ele é um desses.
Bah, certamente.
Sem palavras.
Isso aí.
Né? Né? Só tenho uma coisa para dizer, né? Sem palavras. Não, fantástico. Não, sério, foi muito legal, muito bacana. Uma maneira divertida aí de se aprender bastante, aí, uma filosofia divina.
Massa.
Obrigado, convidado especial.
Obrigado.
Eu que agradeço. E sabe uma coisa que eu achei muito bonita de tudo isso? É que ele tem ideia do quão sortudo ele é, ele valoriza, ele enxerga isso, de assim, como eu sou abençoado, como eu sou agraciado de ter ter tido, sabe, os pais, né, músicos e o meio que eu convivi, ele valoriza muito isso, acho muito bonito também, porque, sabe, nem todo mundo, né, isso é uma coisa que poucos têm, e muitas vezes as pessoas chegam lá e esquecem a história, assim, a sorte que deram, todo esse lado que não depende só da gente, né, ele é uma soma de coisas que fazem uma pessoa ser um ganhador de um Tertis, né, e ser um músico fantástico. Então, ele sabe o valor disso. Por isso que ele toca também, além disso, que ele toca dessa maneira.
Eu queria adicionar pro pessoal que tá em casa que aqui no StreamYard, a hora que ele saiu, ele já mandou uma mensagem no chat pra gente, agradecendo. Eu não sei se eu cortei porque a minha internet tá meio cocô hoje, mas ele, na hora, ele já
Deu uma
mandou assim,
cortada.
nossa, muito obrigado por me convidar, blá blá, então, né, tipo,
Bem querido.
Não, agora
Mas,
Masterclass. Aí o Pedrão, o Gabriel, nós vamos trabalhar aí, fazer uma.
Ah, é?
Opa! A gente esqueceu de perguntar se ele dá aula, se ele gosta de dar aula, porque eu acredito que sim. Eu acredito que sim, porque, né, a maneira que ele fala e tal, é um cara que divide muito. Achei muito bonito. Maravilha.
beleza.
Eu tenho que dizer, eu ainda não esqueci, mudando o foco, do encontro do gente do sábado. Foi maravilhoso, já que você está aqui, né? O nosso o Campestre.
Do quarteto? Pô, foi bacana, foi emocionante. Pô, as mensagens que vocês mandaram também, eu deixar registrado aqui que a Bárbara, minha mulher, ela filmou aquela mensagem que vocês mandaram, vocês e vários alunos, amigos, irmãos, mandaram mensagens e ela pôs na televisão, ela conseguiu espelhar o celular, e eu não tinha a menor ideia. Daí eu falei, o que você está fazendo? Põe aí na TV, aí, não sei o quê. Daí ela, não, peraí e tal, aí começou. Aí ela ficou me filmando, assim, bem no olho, assim, ó. Aí, foi, nossa, emocionante. Obrigadão.
Nossa, o Two Violins fez uma edição massa ali, né?
Olha, um baita trabalho. A Bruna, maravilha, e a Nicole também, né, pelo que a Bárbara contou. E a edição de vocês tocando foi muito massa. Eu falei, pô, tem que falar para todo mundo como eles tocam bonito, né? Eu tenho um vídeo guardado. Então, quando alguém for tocar aqui para o meu Hofmeister, eu vou falar, olha aqui você tocando. Então, meu filho, ó, lembre disso. Ó, aqui, ó. Né? Até ficou mudo aqui. Muito bom. Meus queridos.
É isso então, né?
Muito obrigado.
Beijão, obrigado. Hasta la próxima.
Tchau, tchau.
Hasta. Então é isso aí, moçada. Muito obrigado para quem ficou aqui na live do Timothy e nos comentários finais com o professor Alexandre Razeira. E amanhã é às 21 horas, né? Amanhã.
Não,
amanhã às 20.
Não. Acho que é
não.
Não
é isso, é 5 horas.
5 horas, não é? Com Camila?
Com a Camila Meirelles.
É outro horário, é às 5, se eu não me engano, amanhã.
Isso. E o tema, só para dar uma adiantada, é sobre Imagitec musical.
Isso aí. Então,
pedagogia.
É isso. A gente tinha que ter sempre o Razer no final para fazer os comentários final, né? Foi muito massa. Foi uma hora com o Timothy, 20 minutos com o Razer. Enfim.
Rapidinho. Gente, por favor, de novo, compartilhe, se inscreva no nosso canal e nos siga. Tururu, tururu, tururu. É isso.
Momento Naruto.
Momento Naruto. É isso aí, valeu, falou, gurizada.